Good afternoon. I'm Kathy Manry, and once again I'm here at Warner University to record some of the oral history of Lake Wales. I brought with me today three of our pioneer citizens who are going to talk to us about the history of Lake Wales. Today is April the 13th, 2 days before tax time. So I'm a little nervous. Bear with me. I'd like to introduce Gladys Howell on my left, Ethyl Mussington in the center, and Mary Lee Roux on the right. Why don't you each tell us a little bit about when you came to Lake Wales? Tell us, Mary Lee, when did you come to Lake Wales?
Well, my mom came here in 1924.
Oh, goodness.
And when we came here, where Citrus World is now, it was a sawmill out there.
Really?
And where JR's service station and all the houses in front of it, it was a cemetery. So 27 runs right through a cemetery along there.
Really? It's the cemetery that is
It's-
still
it's-
Washington
yeah.
Cemetery.
Yeah.
But it used
But
to
part of it was used to build this road, so they didn't worry about, trying to dig nobody up.
So there are people buried under 27.
And they used to call it, when they first built it, they called it Bloody 27, because something was always happening, accidents, and everybody sort of like led that.
Oh my
And as far as the sawmill is concerned, they have an area over there that they call mill quarters. And the reason why they call it mill quarters is because of the sawmill. And that's why my mom and dad came here to Lake Wales. My grandmother, her husband followed the sawmill. And so we had left our land and came to Lake Wales to the sawmill.
Really?
And so that's how my family happened to be in Lake Wales.
And so they were taking down native pines.
Beg pardon?
They were taking down native pine trees and putting pine trees through
Yeah,
the
because
sawmill?
all out there was woods except for is one road, Washington Avenue, ran all the way across where the lake is now.
Yes.
It ran all the way across, and it was a dirt road from D Street all the way out to that lake.
Really? Interesting. Was there a road where 27 is now?
No,
There wasn't a road. That's just where the
it was a
sawmill.
mill quarter. It was a plant that done sawmill work, whatever that is. They made planks, I guess, wood. That's probably what it was.
Interesting.
But it was a sawmill.
Interesting. You're the first person to mention that. I haven't heard that before. How long have you been here, Ethel?
83 years.
That's impossible.
I was born at 339 C Street. It used to be 3rd Street, but the city fathers saw fit to change our streets down in the northwest section to letters, and they took 3rd away and put it back downtown. We couldn't have 3rd Street uptown and downtown too, so we got to be, you notice that all the streets in the northwest section are A, B, C, D, E.
Absolutely.
They used to be 1st, 2nd, 3rd. That's what it used to be.
When were they changed? Because I thought they were always letters.
No, when I came up, it was we were 339 3rd Street. That's where I was born, and I stayed there until I went off to school, and we came back and we built out. When I married, we built our house up on Pearl Street, and that was the only time I didn't leave C Street until I went off to college.
Really? And were there midwives at that time?
Dr. Pitt Tomlinson
Yes.
and his daddy.
Also
delivered-
Dr. Thomas.
Yeah, he was a Dr. Thomas, but a midwife delivered me, Lawrence William, and several of my classmates. And her name was Mrs. Candace. I think that
Really?
that was her first
Lala
name.
Potts' mama.
Hmm?
Lala.
No, she didn't deliver me. It was Miss Candace.
They do you.
And they would come to the home?
Yes, yes.
Wow.
And,
That's interesting.
I stayed there, as I said, on C Street until we built a house and moved away. That house no longer stands. It's been sold. That property has been sold a couple of times, and now it's just a foundation.
Oh, the foundation
It's
is still there.
And I went to school at William Wesley Academy, like I told her, was the name of the school was named for the first names of two ministers, the prominent ministers in our section at that time.
And how many grades were there in William Wesley Academy?
We went from
Wesley?
first grade
Six.
to sixth grade.
You did
We
sixth
didn't
grade.
have any high school or junior high. And most of the ones that finished before Roosevelt became a school went to Bartow or Lakeland or some further away. Mrs. Austin, that you all know, went to Gainesville to finish high school.
Really?
By the time we came along, they had built Roosevelt.
And so the people who went away had to move away. I mean, they had, when,
No,
say
that's-
Mrs. Austin,
They'd catch rides
parents.
and
Oh, my
parents or somebody to send them over there. Now, Mrs. Austin had relatives in Gainesville.
so she could live there.
She lived with her relatives.
She could live there.
And then Mr.
Hawkins and all of those.
Montgomery, the oldest Montgomery, he walked to
Oh,
Bartow.
yes, he did.
Oh, my goodness.
I can't think of his name, but that was a smart.
That's
Shank
Shank
was
Montgomery's
next- he was
brother.
next to genius.
Mhm.
And he walked to school
He walked
in
to
Bartow?
after he finished high school, whatever. My certificate for
William,
leaving William Wesley, I was promoted to the 7th grade. So that the 7th grade is when we went to Roosevelt.
Oh, and so that's when they started Roosevelt.
Mhm.
And,
Me.
but it was built someplace different from where it is now, wasn't it? No.
The WPA built Roosevelt
Oh,
High.
did they?
Mhm.
Interesting. And Gladys, when did you come?
1936. I was born in Tampa, Florida, and during the time that we was in Tampa, we moved to a little place called I think it was Highway in the Hill.
Howie in the Hills?
Uh-huh.
You've seen that
you know,
sign.
I've seen the sign.
And then we left there, and we came. My parents left there, and it came to Lakeville in 1936, and I started William Wesley in 37, and then after I started at Roosevelt in 38. That's the first year that it was open.
That they opened Roosevelt.
Hmm.
Who were William and Wesley?
Well, that was two pastors of the Methodist Church and the Baptist Church. Two
And
men.
did they,
The same
did
church.
they open it?
William the academy,
Yes.
yes, they founded
They
that.
were the
Yes.
people that started it.
William Smith was the pastor of First Baptist. It was First Baptist Church, where Pastor Pierce is now.
Mhm.
And Wesley Faison was my pastor at African Methodist Episcopal Church. The
And that
Reverend
was my
Clear.
pastor.
Cleary is.
Mhm.
Very interesting.
Mhm.
And was there a new philosophy to the, did they close William Wesley when they opened Roosevelt?
Yes.
Yeah.
So all the 1st through 6th moved into Roosevelt and then they extended it into the higher
Right.
grades?
Right.
Did it go all the way to 12?
Yes.
What, Roosevelt?
Yes.
Roosevelt?
Then
No, not at
first.
first.
Not at first?
Went to
When they
ninth.
moved into Roosevelt, every year, like we moved in at 7th
Went to the
grade,
ninth
every
grade.
year they added another grade and another grade.
Ah.
And it got at one point where a class that was going to graduate, they didn't have enough members in there to graduate, so they had to move kids out of one class into another one so they could graduate. If they hadn't done it that year, well then they wouldn't have had a high school at that time.
And then what happened when you finished Roosevelt? You went away to school. Where did you go?
Well, I went to Florida A&M for my undergraduate work. Then I taught for 18 years.
Here?
No, I taught in Winter in Winter Haven for, I guess, about 10 years. Florence Villa then it was called. And there was a little school on First Street. I stayed there about 10 years, and then I came over to Roosevelt. And I stayed there about 10 years. Then I went to the county office, and I stayed there about 10 years.
So you actually,
I taught 31 years. The first year
Wow.
I taught in the Veterans Night School. So I had 31 years of service. But not She had a whole lot more, didn't
How long did
Years,
you teach,
31 years,
Gladys?
that's 32 years.
she?
I taught 32 years.
And-
Yep, she and I, we were classmates. We graduated together and we went off to college together. But then my mother moved from Lake Wales to Daytona Beach.
And I cried.
And after we went off to Florida A&M, my family left while I was at Florida A&M. We went to Daytona Beach, and that's where I finished school at Bethune-Cookman College, and instead of finishing at Florida. And then after I finished, I got a job going to Palmetto, Florida to work. But Mr. Brody, on my way there, he told me, I could stop here because I graduated from Roosevelt. He said, I have a job for you here, and I was happy to come back home again.
Yes.
And coming back home.
So you just didn't go to Palmetto?
No, I didn't. My principal wrote a letter and explaining them all about his, because he had to do that in case, when my tenure come up, that 4-year tenure that they had come up, that they wouldn't dock me for it, for not being there, and then didn't show up when I was supposed to show up and all of that. But anyway, I stayed in Lake Wales, and then I left and went to a graduate school from after finishing Bethune-Cookman. Then I went off. When I came back here, during the summer they used to have a program called the science, science of what the foundation of science, something that they have that they would send you off if you put in your application to different colleges. So I feel like by 15 and the University of North Dakota picked me up, and I was so happy. I was so happy, Lord, I thought I knew some science.
You went to North Dakota?
University of North Dakota in Grand Forks.
Oh my goodness.
Well, I went out there and for the summer. And when I came back, and boy, I put on more science fairs and more everything, because I thought I knew something when I got back to Lake Wales.
I went to Florida A&M on a Lewis Scholarship.
Yes, they were on Lewis Scholarship.
And didn't know that they were giving the test until the day before it was being given.
The scholarship test?
The scholarship test. You had to go to Bartow to take it, and a neighbor read about it in the newspaper and told my mama about it, and I didn't know how I was going to get there. And Mr. Longworth, our principal, took me over, and I passed, and I went to school on the Lewis Scholarship. Could have gotten a master's degree, but didn't know that I could take it 2 more years.
Really?
I didn't know.
And you probably went back and got your master's somewhere else.
Yeah.
I got it at Syracuse University, but and I had a scholarship to go there too, and I went for 4 summers, and only went in the summertime. And when I first got there, Kirk, you have heard of Kirk, Dr. Kirk?
Kirk,
They wrote those special education books. He was one of my instructors.
Really?
And when I passed my first test, he said, why don't you just stay the whole year and get your... They tell me that the snow piles up like top of cars in the wintertime. I can't stay up here. So I went back several summers until I got my master's degree.
Wow.
Yes.
And did you come back and teach also?
No, I didn't finish high school in Lake Roosevelt.
And you moved? Where did you move?
I got married.
Oh, you got married.
Yeah.
You got the other kind of degree.
Degree.
MRS.
Yeah, and I had 4 children here and 2 in Rochester.
Oh, so you did have the snow pile up.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
And when did you come back to Lake Wales?
My husband died in '69, and I came back because I'm an only child, and my mom lived here. And so I came back. I would eventually had to come back anyway. And so she kept worrying me about coming back until I came back. And so she passed in '98. And so I live in the home that they work for.
That's fabulous. That's fabulous. So it was actually one of the homes that was part of the sawmill?
No, it used to be where I live. It used to be an area there. I don't know if anybody might know Mr. Poozer. But Pooh's wife
Yeah.
still living.
I don't know. I
don't
don't know.
either.
Lived or not.
Well, anyway, it was a man named Pooh's, and he built all these houses, and it only went a certain distance. And so at the time that they built all these houses, after he had built as many as he had intended to build, well, then he had all this land from one little spot way over to G Street. And he started selling it. He was selling those lots for $250, and you only had to pay $10 down and $10 a month. So my mom bought one.
Wow.
And so we was living in the north at the time, and so.
So she had a house built.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Big part.
She had a house
She had her
built.
house built. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Well, and I know where you live, since you live with my friend Terry.
Well, yeah, yeah, and
with her.
they get-
Terry lives with her.
everybody say I live with Terry. So,
Yeah.
when I left Florida A&M, I went to Daytona, and Daytona, that's where I went to school. While I was there, I married, and I have those 4 children of mine. Terry is one. My oldest son, he is in Milford, Connecticut, and
And then you got it right and had girls.
I had all girls after that. And happened that they all have finished college, and they have all that have their degrees.
Excellent.
And
Well, tell me
now I'm
what it was.
still taking care of all of them.
Especially Terry.
Yes.
Tell me what it was like in Lake Wales in, say, the 30s and the 40s. It was very different than it is today.
Much more different than it
Yeah.
is now. Lincoln Avenue was a business mecca for the northwest section. We had a grocery store, we had a laundry, we had a fish market, we had a drugstore, we had the American Legion, and where
Picture
the
taking
Public
place.
started down there. It was all American store where the
American Legion was.
And that changed into Publix, and then they moved downtown over there.
Stewart, I think, when they
Was it
moved
Stewart?
downtown.
Might have been Stewart.
Good,
But
someplace.
anyway, it was just beautiful. In 40 and 41, when the war was going on, this is where the 41st Infantry and the 2002nd Quartermasters
Yeah,
used to come to socialize.
And the 858 engineers.
Yes.
Now,
That's
now
wonderful.
I remember that. I remember the service
Yeah, 'cause we
thing.
used to go down to the
You
dance.
remember the men?
Yeah, because I used to work in the drugstore.
Yeah, that's when they would come down and socialize. Yeah.
And there was a drugstore down there, too.
And the
Were
drugstore.
there entertainment places? Because I just found out recently there was a movie theater.
Yes.
Yes.
The
We call it
tin
the tin
can?
can.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
it
they
wasn't
had
called the-
Walker.
They had Walker's had
Before
a theater.
that, before
Yeah.
But
that.
let me tell you, before Walker, Miss Tia Mac's daddy had a theater when they was showing silent movies.
Oh, yeah.
And I
know
remember
about
going there, and it used to be a man that was famous. They called him Peg Leg,
Oh, yeah.
and he came to that theater one night.
So these were when there were silent movies?
Movies.
Till's daddy had a theater down there. Till Max, and they showed silent movies. Back then they didn't have the talking movies. Then, well, I don't know what happened in between then, but then Walker had a theater, and they had a nice
Della
theater.
Rover. Miss Walker's, that was the name of it. Della Rover. And then, what's this
When-
lady name from Lakeland that had the tin can? And then Ray Charles used to come.
All
Ray
kind
Charles came to the American Legion. He
of.
used to play
Down there.
Well, this
But
was
those
before he became big.
Famous.
Famous.
Yeah,
And
this was back
all
in the
of those,
vaudeville
yeah,
days.
yes, Count Basie, all of the big band areas, and Buddy Johnson and his wife, his sister,
Ella Johnson.
Was there
Ella
dancing?
Johnson.
Yes.
Yeah, just
There
the
was
dancing
dancing.
upstairs over the
Upstairs.
Walker building with
And
the
they used to
dancing
have
plays.
a women's
All girls. band.
all-girl band.
Man used to come
And
there.
boy, they were good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they used to downstairs. They
Stevie
had-
Wonder,
they
all of
had-
them used to come to Lake Wales.
Downstairs, they used to have the vaudevilles, and they would have girls. And I guess like you see at
Las Vegas.
Christmas time when they
Yeah.
be stepping, you know.
Oh,
That's
yes.
right.
But I used to.
Vaudeville, yeah.
Mama used to let me go to that too.
Vaudeville.
Mama
Mm-hmm.
would let me go.
One person told me that you weren't, people,
Palm Beach
young
Garden.
people weren't allowed on Lincoln Avenue.
Oh,
past
no,
a
that's
certain-
not
Past a
true.
certain time. Well,
That's
they
not
had
true.
A curfew.
Yeah, curfew.
They had a curfew.
In my
Yeah.
time, they had a curfew.
My parents had a curfew.
Well, that's
Yeah,
what I
because
thought.
when
about.
I
that
was
was the
there-
parents'
Parents.
curfew. Mhm.
When I was
There
there,
wasn't no
they were
police.
down there too. But
Your
at
mama
that
had to go
time,
with
at that time, Lincoln Avenue was a nice place to go because
Yeah.
it was all. See, back that time, children didn't have the mindset that they have now, that they got to have drugs or they want to do everything else. Because see, the fun thing for me when I was a kid coming up was playing peg leg, which you take a knife and jackknife and twist it and hit it. And if not that,
Family pig.
yeah,
But
and you know, loving the dance. Most
The
children
children
liked
loved
to
to
dance
dance.
because I did.
I did too.
My thing was that one thing, my mom, I never did go anywhere without asking her. I wasn't afraid to ask her to go anywhere I wanted to go. And if she just had to tell me no the next time, because the next time come, I wasn't afraid to ask her the next time. And if she said, yes, Mary Lee, you can go. No, I'll start off like this. When she tell me, well, I don't know, well, that means she gonna let me go. But if she doesn't intend for me to go, she say no. And I can beg all night and she'd never change. But if she say,
But
I
I
don't,
don't know me.
yeah, means
Yes.
she might let me go. Yeah. But that's the one thing that I appreciated about my mom, because my mom trusted me. And it made me feel good because whenever she said come back a certain time, I was back there at a certain time.
Okay.
I never had to slip off and go anywhere. I asked her.
And was education valued the way we'd like to think it's valued today?
I think so.
I think
More
it was
important.
More so?
More parent involvement back in that time,
Yeah.
I think.
Were
And neighborhood, neighbors.
And more
You're talking
encouragement.
about it
in
takes a
school.
village to raise a child. That's not new. That's
I tell you.
That's a
Well-
war thing.
in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
Gladys used to live right across the street from it.
worse than your parents
And you
seeing
did
you
too.
do something wrong
You
is
used to
somebody
live across
else's
the street.
parents seeing you do
Honey,
something
oh
wrong.
Lord, how much you better. And when that train comes through that Atlantic coastline 9 o'clock, honey, everybody
in the house.
honey, be running, honey, to get in the house before
Because
the
that was the
second
clock.
whistle blow. That was the
That
clock.
was the clock.
That was the
That
clock.
was your curfew.
Oh, that was the honey, all our curfew, everybody, even when you're in church,
Did they
everything.
tell you about Townsend Mill?
No, tell me about
That was
Townsend.
at the B Street. That was First Street then.
Mm-hmm. East Street, mm-hmm.
There was a mill over there called
First
Townsend
Street.
Mill.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh,
we-
sure was.
And
It's across the railroad
we
track.
could tell
Mm-hmm.
the time at 12 o'clock. They blew a whistle.
Whistle. Mm-hmm.
Well,
That meant the men could, what they say, knock off at lunch.
Lunch, uh-huh.
They stay off for a little
Yeah.
while and then they blow it to come back.
Yeah, at 1
because
o'clock.
when I was growing up in the 50s and the 60s, I think Townsend Lumber,
Close.
wasn't it closer, wasn't it like off of Crystal or Orange or
It
one
was-
of those streets?
It was right off of Lincoln Avenue.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, off Lincoln Avenue.
Yeah.
Because our
You
first
wasn't
church was
Crystal.
right across the street from it.
Mm-hmm.
Were churches as big then as they are now?
No.
No.
Because now that's really where, to me, the power is in Northwest Section, is everybody has their
There's so many
specific
churches.
churches.
But all of our information most likely will come through the ministers and the church. Community.
That's right.
Community information came through the pastors and the churches, and they pushed involvement.
Environment.
Yeah. And you know, I like to think of our community as depending on the church for guidance in certain
did, they
things.
used
You
to.
know. You know, today people don't care about whether they get the right information, and churches then was, you know, really standing up, you know, and people went to them, you know.
You know, I remember, that's before well, when my children, some of my children, yes, had come. And we didn't have much recreation. And downtown, they had recreation, and Mr. Cruz was over it. Do you remember Mr. Cruz? Well, Mr. Cruz, I always say he was a wonderful man because he took some of the money that he had and gave it to the students at recreation during the summer, so that we can have a little recreation at Roosevelt. And he was sharing, and he got a lady named Helen Johnson to be over this recreation little place that they had in classrooms. You know, they had classrooms where children could come in and out, and they can make little things. You know, little art is most of little artwork.
What years would this have been? Like just the decades?
It should have been around 70. No, it's around about late 60s or the early 70s. I was working there. I started working at Roosevelt in 1960, the school year of 60. And then when my husband came, he was the president of the PTA of that school, and so he had asked the county then to open up the gym so the children could go to the gym, and while Mr. Cruz was giving us money for the little artwork what the children was doing, we could buy the material and things for that. You know, I mean, they wasn't paying us, but he would give us the material and things for the children to have.
And you volunteered to
Yeah, I volunteered, and then when Miss Johnson stopped working on kind of husband took real sick, then I was in charge of it. I became in charge of it. And so and I would say for the first good recreation we had, it was under Mr. Cruz that came. Now James Austin, you know, he fought for a pool,
And they still fighting.
and Bob fought for the recreation building.
Well, you know,
But we changed and named the recreation building after Austin instead of Bob, due to the fact that they asked me would it be all right, you know, Wilson and June Young and the rest of them asked me would it be all right for us to name that building after Austin, because Austin was fighting for the pool and Bob was fighting for the recreation building because he the one wrote the federal government.
Your husband?
To get that building, and Massey, and Eddie Rivers, and Haywood man, Claudia, and now they was fighting with Bob to get a place that Mr. Cruz had started this summer program, and so that means, and Bob had started to open the gym up, so then that means that let us get us a recreation building, and that's how that came about.
What was there where you're talking about
Mr.
where
James,
the Austin Center is now? What was there before? Anything?
Nothing. With nothing, because Grove, because over the front of it was the project.
And still is.
And so he said because he was over two recreation in Daytona. He was over two recreation centers in Daytona, and he felt like he had children here, and he felt like they should have one in Lakeville, but the people in Lakeville didn't want one. And so he had to get the government involved and everything before they would agree. And incidentally, I don't know, but he ran for a city commissioner.
Your husband?
He also ran the first time in laws. In the next 2 years, because it was 2 years term, in the next 2 years Bob ran, and he ran along with Mr. Coleman. You know, Mr. Coleman used to be over the nursing home.
Yep.
And then another man named Story.
Right.
And so he ran with them in Story 1.
Right. Right.
And that was before Mr. Kirkland, man. And Bob had recreation and Mr. Cruz before even Mr. Mann even came to town. Kirkland, you know, because Kirkland wasn't even here during that time.
Right.
And so Mr. Cruz was really the one that started all of this, because Mr. Austin was fighting for the pool, but he wasn't fighting for the recreation center. No, a center being built.
And they named it for him, though Mr. Austin was a native.
No,
That's probably why they gave it to him.
no. Mr. Austin asked us, we give it to him,
Yeah,
the
he
name.
was a native, though.
And he was a native here, and he had worked hard on the pool, which would have been a recreation center, you know, recreation for the children to go to.
I hope that the fighting for the pool is over. And
I am
now
so
all we
happy.
have to do is to figure out where to put it and what kind of pool to have.
And how you gonna maintain it once you get it?
And
Right,
yeah.
but I think for the first
You could do
time,
because you could charge children so much of money to come in each time.
Well, the ones that
Well-
wanna go to the public pool not gonna be able to take care of the maintenance. Money
It
gonna have to
won't.
come from somewhere.
Well, the money
Yeah,
does
and
have to
let the
come
churches
somewhere.
help. A lot of
But
money
I
be
do
paid to
think
the
we've
churches.
got more of a systematic plan going now, so
At
that's,
last.
that I think is gonna happen.
Yeah.
And Terry can just be happy that under her watch it's gonna happen.
And all my children miss that.
And
Amen.
I did too when I was here. After did too when she was here. She didn't have nowhere to go.
Swim anyway.
Well, during,
And we can't even swim today.
Oh, I did. I learned.
Oh,
to
you
swim.
learned?
Yes. I
That's
had to pay
good.
To learn though, I went and got instruction.
You got the
Okay.
construction.
I can swim.
That's
Yeah.
good.
good girl,
Yeah.
good girl. Because, you know, when I was growing up,
Well,
I
how
didn't
did
know
you know
that
that?
black people weren't allowed to swim at the lake.
Mm-hmm.
When we swam at the lake, people know that I have said this, it wasn't that we were aware of the fact that it was segregated, because if people are not there, you don't notice their absence. You just notice it if somebody brings it to your attention.
But you know, they
So-
closed the lake. They closed down the swimming.
Yeah, at
When
the
they
Austin
started
them,
trying to
yeah.
integrate it.
When Austin
But you
tried to
remember
integrate it.
You remember the lake
They
that
closed it up.
the blacks used to go to?
Yeah, Caldwell Lake. Mhm.
What
Right.
lake is that?
Caldwell
Caldwell.
Lake.
It sets,
It sits
you know, there's a back road going to Bach Tower.
somewhere by
Way
Bach
back
Tower.
there. What's the old scenic path?
The old scenic, yeah,
Yeah,
well,
before that scenic highway came through. It's an
And it
old
was
scenic
near
highway.
Snatch Pond, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah, it was two
And
little
Snatch
lakes
Pond, one year, it was a lot of kids left school, about 6 of them,
They got
wasn't it?
drowned in Caldwell.
They all went to Caldwell Lake.
Sure did.
School it was the last day of school. And instead of them going home, they went to Caldwell Lake. Well, Caldwell Lake didn't have a walkout. It dropped down. Soon as you stepped in, you was going down. And 6 children went in swimming, they all died. So I got pictures of the funeral. I took
how
pictures of the funeral and the cars and
Right.
everything.
Horrible.
And they
Well,
all
I bet
died.
that's what's now like Annie. Is it just north of Chalet Suzanne Road, and is
It's
it right off of what is now Scenic Highway?
It's
You can go the
closer.
back road to the high school.
Mm-hmm.
It's behind the Florida Power. Is it the Florida
the
Power?
power plant that
back
they going everything. It's back in
The
there.
one that's going down toward Mount Lake.
Mm-hmm.
I've been trying to picture where it is now.
You know where the back gate to Mount
Uh-huh,
Lake is? That's right there.
Right there. Up,
I didn't even
okay.
notice there was a lake there. Is there still a lake there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Well,
grown
yeah.
up a lot. You can't hardly see it from the street.
And did you know that you can now swim in Lake Wells Lake? I just found this out last week.
Yes, that's
Over there at the
Yeah.
boat ramp, you can.
Yeah.
You can go.
float.
Well, when they
You
built
can
the
swim.
new, you're talking about the new boat ramp?
Yes,
Yeah,
The one which you go out?
yeah.
right.
Mhm.
Well, when they first built it, they built it as a fishing
Pier.
Pier.
People are supposed to have been able to go fishing out there. And so this girl, Edna, said she went there one day to go fishing. Say the police come and told her that she couldn't go fish out there.
No doubt that.
And so people wants to go out there and watch the sunset or the sunrise or something. And they weren't allowed to go. But they built it, that's what the city said. It was
And
built
they was
for,
building it for her.
It was supposed to be people, instead of trying to stand around the lake, they could go out there and fish. But they,
Did anybody tell you about Spook Hill?
Yeah, I just want to mention about
Someone
Spook Hill.
told me that the story of Spook Hill.
It's changed over
Yes.
the years.
Years.
What was
With the
the
real story. Tell them,
Tell us the
because
real
we know the real story.
Well, now, what I
well, I
heard
don't know the real story.
was that there was an old man fishing down there, old black man.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
fishing.
Yeah,
And
Ghost the Coon,
that's
up they
what
call
they
him.
call him.
Ghost the Coon.
Ghost the Coon.
Ghost
like that.
the
But
Coon.
he was out
Ghost
there.
the Coon.
He was out there fishing, and he parked. You saw parked his car. Did Ghost the Coon have a car? I don't believe it did. But anyway, when he looked,
His old raggedy car that he had.
he saw his car backing up the hill, and he said, "Them's ghosts." And they named it Spook Hill.
Because
The
them
next thing
spooks, he said, look at them spooks.
But the next
Put
thing
your
we
mouth
heard
car.
was there was an old Indian chief was buried under there,
Well,
and he's pushing the cars off.
yes,
Well, see,
exactly.
the people that in the city, once that was like a phenomenon, you know, and so they got it and made it a sort of a historical thing.
Yeah,
you know.
changed the whole.
And naturally, they takes away whoever discovered it. You never hear tell of them.
Mr. Ghost the
Well, how
Coon.
long, when did it change from being Ghost
I
the
don't
Coon to,
know.
I mean, like the 50s
The
or
ghost.
40s?
Oh, it must have changed because it still was Spook Hill in '44. It still was Spook Hill.
Was
In
it Ghost
Still
the Coon?
Spook Hill.
It's
It's still-
still
They
Spook
just have
Hill.
another legend
The
up there.
legend.
Yeah,
Now, when I came back here in '60, the legend had changed.
Was the legend of Ghost the Coon still there in 44?
Yes.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
think they ever printed
in
on
fact-
It was never printed on nothing,
Yeah,
but
it was
But that's
the
what
people
people talked about.
Yeah.
talked about.
Most of the black people knew about it.
Knew about it because the
they-
man came running.
Telling
Yeah, because
everybody.
he was afraid.
Yeah.
Was he a real person?
Yes, he's a real person.
So did you all know him?
Yes, we know
Oh,
him.
so he was,
Did you know him?
he was around,
I did.
he was
and she
around in the
did.
30s?
I know you was
Still
there in the
around in the
40s.
30s?
I don't know.
I
I
don't-
was born in '26.
In the
That's
40s.
impossible.
I mean,
Well, he was there in the 40s. When we graduated from high school, he was there in '44.
Okay. Well, people have told me that there was a different story than what's there now.
I know it.
Yeah.
They'll tell it.
I had an argument with somebody from Sarasota one time because she said, no, it was a black man that found it. And I said, I've
sure
never heard
did.
that
That's what
story.
they-
Well,
That's
that's
the
the
story.
truth. Because they say he came running all the way down there hollering because during that time, see, it was dirt.
Oh, yeah, in the orange grove.
Yeah,
program.
it was
And see, the
dirt.
only thing is they didn't have a sign up there saying that was Spook Hill, because all the black people knew it was there, and so when we get ready to go there, we just went there.
Yeah,
and,
that's right. It wasn't no sign or nothing up.
Well, it's now probably the biggest tourist attraction. in
Yeah,
Lake
one
Wales.
of them.
If you're around the lake, somebody will always stop and ask you how to get to Spook.
Spook
Well, you
Hill.
know, it's something to it that haven't been mentioned was Bok Tower. I remember years ago, Bok Tower, they had one day that the black people could go. And when they go that one day, they could go to Cypress Garden.
Really?
They weren't allowed any other time.
You could not go to
You
Bok
could
Tower?
not, black people could
One
not go
day.
to Bok Tower in the sanctuary, the part of the,
In the garden?
couldn't go there. And the years that they had set aside for the black people to go there, they would allow the Seminole Indians to come up there. And they would have their little huts built, and they would be selling all their little dolls and all this trinkets and stuff. And but we never did get to Bok Tower. I mean, Cypress Garden. But that was
How
one.
Was that an acceptable way to be treated? I
Yeah.
mean, did you feel, I can't conceive of how that would feel.
Well,
And
Well,
I know that's probably a delicate question, but
no,
it's not a delicate
No,
question,
but
you know,
that was during
because
the
that was
time
the way of life.
of life and history.
And people are, say for instance, you got a big store over there, that's your store, and you can allow who you want to come in.
At the time.
Now, my dad worked at Bok Tower for 30 years, and he used to stay out there. That's where my mom met him at. And so that was a way of life. That's your Bok Tower. And my biological daddy helped to build Bok Tower.
Mine too.
You really?
Yo, yeah,
And Mr. Lang Moran.
Yeah.
yeah.
there
Yeah.
were hundreds and
But you
hundreds.
never hear about black people haven't done that. Plus, Lang Moran
Uh,
and my daddy and several others. I can't name them, but they were all out there.
What was your maiden name?
Isles, I-L-E-S.
ILES?
Mm-hmm. My daddy came from Louisiana, and
called French.
His ancestors were Cajuns, Creoles, something.
Speaking a different language.
Yeah.
Speaking a different language.
But things have changed a lot, and as you say, it's not a delicate question because that was the way of life.
Of the
Well,
way of
You
life.
go in, if you wanted to try on something at the store, you take it home. If it didn't fit, especially freelance,
Mm-hmm.
if
Well-
it didn't fit, it's too bad.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Well,
why Mr. Lawrence Williams' dad
Yeah.
got in trouble because he took some shoes back. And his wife had, it was either two left shoes or two right shoes, or the two different sizes or something. And he almost got in trouble. In fact, he was about to be lynched.
No.
Yes,
Yeah.
he was. And I'm trying to think, what's the man's, his Lawrence's mom worked for some prominent white family. And they are the ones that saved him. Who was?
What's his last name?
George Williams. His name was George Williams, the daddy was. But he was almost got lynched for going in and
Trying to
his
change.
wife, because his wife took the shoes back and old man Freelander wouldn't have it. Yeah.
Two left shoes.
So you were allowed to shop there,
They just
Mhm.
couldn't
spend
try
money,
on.
but you couldn't.
Try on.
It was so
You couldn't
expensive.
try on anything.
It was so expensive because I made most of my church clothes because they charged too much.
Well, my mama sewed too. She was a beautiful seamstress. She made our clothes.
Yeah.
Well, I asked the other day about on Lincoln Avenue about the finances and whether there was a bank, and they were said no, that everything was just cash,
Right.
and that you were paid in cash. Your parents probably got paid in cash at the end of the week. And so everything was just a cash. You didn't write checks for anything.
No, ain't no black person
Well-
wrote no checks, no way. They didn't write no checks.
No?
No.
No, there were no banks.
And
No.
so you just didn't even keep your money in banks. You just kept your
No,
money.
well, they only
Post
had,
office.
some of
they
them-
only-
You had the post office. You
they
keep
only
your
had
money.
one bank here, and that was, his name was Green.
Yeah, I worked with him.
He had the only bank here in Lake Wales, and right across the street was a 5 and 10 cent store. And very seldom black people, well, my parents didn't. And when you're making, my mom worked from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock every day except Saturday and Sunday. And she was paid $5 a week.
A week?
Yes, ma'am.
That's incredible.
$5 a week.
Oh my goodness.
And it was, and when she asked, and I won't mention the lady's name, I mean the family's name, but when she told them that she had to have more than $5 a week, they say they couldn't afford it. And this is a prominent family here in Lake Wales.
Did she leave, I hope?
Oh yeah.
Good.
When I worked for Mr. Green and Mr. Green, and on Saturdays, every Saturday, because I was going to school, every Saturday I'd go to work for them. I worked from 8 to 12 for 50 cents. From 8 to 12. And I took my 30 cents and bought me 3 yards of cloth, 10 cents a yard from Freelander store. And I took a nickel of that and bought some thread.
Gracious.
So I could have that. And the other little 10 cent, that was 15 cents left over, I buy some paper for me and my brother that go to school with.
Gracious.
Well, those are days that you don't even want to think about. But
Well, but
Well,
my mom,
it's so
my mom would
interesting.
give me 25 cents a week, and I would take that 25 cents. I'd go downtown and I'd buy me a pair of panties and a pair of socks every week.
And when you said
For a quarter.
downtown, you meant Lincoln Avenue downtown.
No,
No,
this
that's
was downtown.
one thing. We didn't have dry goods stores.
Didn't have what?
Dry goods stores,
So you
Oh,
go.
no.
dresses and things.
No, it was just,
Freelanders are Fiendbergs. There was a
that's right, Fiendberg.
Fiendbergs.
Fiendberg was on the next
Where,
corner.
Trouvalia,
Uh-huh.
that was Feenberg's, I think. And, no,
And Freeland was further down.
Well, the
Freelanders was first, I think, and
Mhm.
Feenberg was further down the
Freelanders
block,
was
across from the bank, where that big clock is.
Uh-huh.
I think that's where Feenberg was.
Freelanders was right there where
True
True
Value.
Value Hardware
Mhm.
store. That all that property belonged
Boy,
to
you
them.
walk in that store and they follow you all the way. Oh,
Because you were going to steal
Deal
they
something.
thought you were going to steal. Mhm.
Oh, my goodness. My goodness.
And if we still went war, we couldn't carry it home because our mama beat us to death to be bringing the thing home. Then you don't stole. You couldn't carry nothing home.
And you know, all of you've seen the pictures on TV of Citrus World and the people doing all the grove work and stuff. Have you ever seen a black person?
At that time?
Now,
Anytime. And how they came up.
Well, now, when you see at the Grove House, if you see the video of what they're doing now, and you look inside, they show everybody, you
Well, in
know.
those groves, they didn't have anybody holler but blacks. But they never showed them.
Mhm.
And then when they started letting the black people, they used to wouldn't let them work out there.
Hmm. Well,
Really?
it all started.
Oh, they wouldn't let them work. And those ladies used to wear uniforms.
went to the candy plant, into the candy plant.
Because
Candy
I
plant.
think of it as Florida Citrus Canners.
Mhm.
But it didn't start there. It didn't start the
Started
Citrus
down
World.
on,
Across from Epps.
with the civil,
Yeah.
Across from Epps, they had nothing there but whites.
But now
No
that
blacks.
it was a different company there though. That was just two different companies. There's one down there by diagonally across from
You're talking about the one down there by
Mount Zion Church, yeah,
Railroad-
over there,
Railroad
yeah.
There's
Avenue.
one there.
Yeah.
That one moved over to Citrus World.
Citrus World.
But there was another one. I can't.
Lakewell Citrus Growers Association. I
Mhm.
think that's what
That's the
where
name
they
of
are
it now.
They moved over to but those ladies looked so neat with their little uniforms, little white caps.
And those were white ladies?
White lady.
All white.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't
My
work there?
Oh,
No black person can
My
work
mom
there.
used to work for one.
Long time. And the one asked me to Precious, Hella's first husband,
Uh-huh.
was driving the cab, and the man in the post office, Mr. Brown, Ed Brown, and he wanted somebody to help his wife out because she was working there. She'd been sick and had gotten behind with her cleaning and all
Cleaning
that
and
stuff.
stuff.
So my mama I don't know, my daddy died when I was 6 years old. She wanted us under her all the time. We could hardly get out of her sight. And he asked if I could go down and work for the Brown. So he was at the post office. He said, "You go in there and talk to her." And I went there and asked for, I didn't know who he was, and asked for Mr. Brown. He was in the back. And I'm not going to tell you who said it,
Mm-hmm.
but I could tell you.
Mm.
"Hey, Ed, do you want a woman to work for you?"
Mm-hmm.
And I stood there and took it because I wanted to work.
Mm-hmm.
Had I known it was going to be like it was, I would have turned around and gone out. Because she had me there one day, and I ironed up all her clothes and mopped the floor and washed up all the dishes. Then she didn't leave me the next day.
Oh, no.
And I think she gave me $5, which was a lot of
A
money.
lot of money at that time,
I
child.
was in college then, Glenn.
And you was in
Gladys was
college.
working for 50 cents.
Yeah, that's
Got a
right.
big bonus.
You got a
I was
big
in
one?
college.
But I was
That
in
one day.
ninth grade when
she
I
let me
started
work.
working for
Well, I
her.
mean, she worked me too. And she had all those clothes piled up there. And I ironed and ironed and ironed and washed dishes and mopped her kitchen. And she had it all straightened out then, and she didn't leave me.
I'd
You
like
did it all one day.
I'd like to say something about North Avenue. You know, North Avenue ran from the white section
Mm-hmm.
into the black section. But the end of the black section, white people stayed down there
On the east side.
on North Avenue.
Near Spook Hill.
West.
On which
No.
side? Near
What?
Spook Hill or near Citrus World?
Not North Avenue ran from there,
North Avenue, she said, Dr.
North
Wilson.
Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
ran all the way through past Epps' place
Please.
on down.
On down There where the candy plant is now.
Now,
Houses used to be over
And
Yeah,
it, and
yeah.
it was an area down there to the end of that street, and all white stayed in there. And they had, now there was no sidewalks for any
Nobody.
other place, but they had sidewalks for the white children from that area all the way down to the white school, and that's where, and that's where the when they used to sell ice. And the
Right.
trucks used to come by, the wagons, you know, with a red wagon, and
Right,
the
yeah.
kids used to get on the, cause we
'Cause they
stayed,
had a horse.
yeah, they had horses, and the barn was down to that end too.
There was a
Time.
dairy over there too, where Spook Hill is, over in that section, the Kincaid dairy.
And Kin-
You remember that? You remember?
Was it
You don't
Kincaid
remember.
Dairy?
No.
Was it Kincaid Dairy?
Uh-huh, yeah, there was a dairy over there.
That's, somebody mentioned that too.
And the ice house is still down there.
Yeah,
They never torn the building
in
down.
front of the old where the old care
Where the-
center.
On the, yeah, the care center come out to that
store,
street.
that store part of the care center.
Yeah.
It's right in the back of it, and it's facing that street over there.
Oh, I remember that. I think the ice house was there even in the 60s.
Yes, they was there.
I don't know why we needed ice in the 60s, but I think it was there.
Yeah, well, a lot of people didn't have refrigerators.
In the 60s, I'm quite sure they had refrigerators.
Some of them did.
Really?
It was, I
They
know
still
it
had
was there.
ice boxes?
It was
Yeah.
there
I
in the
don't
'70s.
remember
It was there in the, let's see, '40s.
It
It was
wasn't
there.
running.
Running.
I don't think, was it?
It was there in the '40s. I know.
40s, yeah, the
Well, you used
40s,
to get the
like
best,
there.
sweetest and the coldest watermelons.
Yeah.
My mom used to. She had bought a brand new ice box, and she used to get ice.
Yeah, they used to come by with that ice.
Mr. Dave,
Did they come,
Dave Smith used to be the
Dave
ice man.
Smith used to be the ice
come
man.
through the northwest section?
And we had a black ice
Yeah,
man.
we had a black
Well,
one.
you had a black ice man.
Well, see, their barn was down North Avenue.
Ah. Wow. Well, this is very interesting, and it's very interesting to talk openly with people about
Oh,
what
yeah.
it was like in
Well,
a community that.
And we did have a palm leaf garden for dancing.
It's right
Yeah.
across where the B Street Center is.
Uh-huh.
That vacant, that was a beautiful place.
Hmm.
If you've been to the Bahamas and see the outdoor
Set up that
what do you
they
call it,
have.
where they have dances and stuff with the front palm fronds and all
Really?
that. We had a garden. They call it the palm leaf garden.
and had a platform out there.
Yeah, for dancing and seats all around and umbrellas over
All
top,
kind of lights.
lights and all kind. Right there on B Street.
And that was in the 40s.
Somebody told me that she was telling me about the first bootlegger, so there was alcohol.
Yeah, the
Even though
bootleg.
it's supposed to be dry.
See who was bootlegging liquor back
You know who the lady, the lady, I can't even think of the lady name.
Yeah, you just don't want to.
No, I can't think of
Oh,
her
so it
name.
was a lady bootlegger?
Well, I guess they had men too. They had all kinds.
Well, it was when my second child was born, we was getting books, coupon books, where you could buy shoes and you buy your meat.
That was the rationing book?
Yeah, and so they had a store, a place downtown where you go and sign up for it. So when he was born, I went down there to get it, and so the lady waited on me, and so she was asking me questions, and I said, and she looked at me and she says, "Didn't your mother ever tell you to say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am to white people?" And it tickled me because I was like sort of radical a little bit, because I didn't approve of having to say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am to a child once they get 12 years old. And I just laughed. And when she started, I just still said, But she asked me that question. I was
Did
just,
she let you sign up?
huh? She did. She
Well, how
When
old?
we got ready to go to college,
Mm-hmm.
Gladys can attest to this. The bus station was there where the old First Federal Building was. A very small building. You remember that?
Yeah.
Miss Alexander was the tickets.
Ticket.
She sold the tickets. She ran that place. And we would get ready to get back to college. And we'd stand there and wait and wait and wait. I don't care if we were first. She would not sell us a ticket until that bus was filled, except for the 5 seats on the last row.
Really?
Yes,
But,
ma'am.
yeah.
She would sell us our tickets, and if it was more than 5, the rest of us had to stand in the aisle and hold on to the thing until we got to Tampa, where we changed buses to go to Tallahassee.
Oh my
She just wouldn't sell us a ticket until she got, you know, if there was, and if you sat up a little close, you had to move if any white people got on.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause that back row was ours.
Yes, sir.
Well,
That one long back bench
But
belonged
Rosa
to
Parks
us.
sat down so we could stand up.
It's a new day.
it is a new
New
day.
day.
It is
But
a
you
new
know
day.
what? I taught Sunday school for a long time. I teach occasionally
Mm-hmm.
now. But when I used to tell the children things, you know, just trying to enlighten them about some of the things that they didn't have to suffer.
It's up or go
And
through.
when I go in, Miss Alice, tell us about the olden days.
Olden days.
And they take some of the things they don't believe.
Mm-hmm.
Did you do? And you let them treat you like that? Of course you did. That was our way of life.
I'm telling
Because
you.
we didn't know anything.
Yeah, because, and I was happy because
She was
when
a
I
good
was,
dancer, Gladys Howell. She was a jitterbug.
I bet she still is.
Oh, can you still dance, Gladys? What about these knees? She used to dance.
well, child, I don't know. When I get on that floor, I forget about them knees sometimes.
There you go. There you go. Well, I thank you very much. Do you take your friends with you when you go to Biloxi and Las Vegas?
All of those that want to go,
Atlantic City?
we go.
Sounds like a good time.
It's fun to go to places, isn't it?
Oh, yes, I enjoy it.
You go?
I don't go with them to
You don't go,
Biloxi.
no,
I
she go.
mostly- we go to Las
Las
Vegas.
Vegas,
but
they
we
mostly
have
go to
some
Las
concerts
Vegas.
at Caesar's Palace. That's mostly where I hang
And you
out.
probably are willing to fly.
Yeah,
Well, see, I know that there is somebody in this house that won't
She
fly.
won't fly.
No,
Terry
Terry.
won't fly.
Terry won't fly.
She also told
Our
me,
boat.
she told me
ship.
she won't get on a ship
Ship.
either.
That's
I
right.
said,
I
well,
don't
you
blame
are
her for that.
stuck.
She won't get on the ship.
Well, I
my
thank
boat.
you so much. I believe that Tina is giving me a signal saying that our time is up. But it's been so interesting to talk to you all and to find out a little bit about what my town was like before it was my town, or even during the time it was my town that I didn't even know what it was like. So I thank you so much for coming.
All right.
I'm